Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to the 6th episode of Timeless Hindu Wisdom, a special web series delivered by the Swamis of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha. This is a special web series initiated to inspire us with the universal wisdom of our ancient Hindu scriptures in these challenging times, presented in a contemporary bite-sized format. Today, our speaker is Yogvivekdas Swami, who will be enlightening us on the return of Bhagwan Ramachandraji to Ayodhya after a 14-year exile. Originally from Leicester, Yogvivekdas Swami completed a degree in medicine and practiced as a doctor for several years before being initiated into sadhu fold by His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1992. He spent 6 years in India conducting a deep study of our Hindu scriptures. He is the head sadhu at the Neasden Temple and has been leading BAPS activities in Europe for the last 20 years. He is a leading and respected Hindu figure across the continent. Currently, he is managing the voluntary effort by BAPS in the wake of this global pandemic. Alongside these administrative duties, he has spoken and written extensively on Hindu teachings around the world. So, without further ado, I hand it over to Yogvivekdas Swami to speak to us on a glass half full.
श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवाननी जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराजनी जय, राधा कृष्ण देवनी जय, सियावर रामचंद्र भगवाननी जय, उमापति महादेवनी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराजनी जय, गुरु हरि महंत स्वामी महाराजनी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज शताब्दी महोत्सवनी जय, लंदन मंदिर रजत जयंती महोत्सवनी जय. Today, in the Timeless Hindu Wisdom series, again we'll be focusing on the Ramayan. The Ramayan is a very popular scripture which is very familiar to most of the people of Indian origin. Let me briefly just explain the Ramayan in a few seconds so we can understand the story or the context of what we will hear today. So once upon a time in Ayodhya there was a king. His name was King Dashrath. He had 4 sons. He had 3 queens. And he decided to hand over the throne to his eldest son, Ramachandraji. While preparations were taking place, while people were celebrating at this good news, someone unfortunately decided to put a spanner in the works. So one of the queens of King Dashrath, Kaikeyi, she was very fond of Ramachandraji, but her maid, Manthara, she started winding the queen up, Queen Kaikeyi. And in no time at all, Kaikeyi, she was poisoned by the words of her maid Manthara. She lost all ability to reason, and then she went to King Dashrath. She asked for 2 boons. Number 1, that Ramachandraji should not take the throne, but in his place, my son, Bharat, he should be crowned as the king of Ayodhya in his place. Number 2, Ramachandraji must leave the kingdom. He must go into exile for 14 years. The poor king was helpless. Despite his protests, he could not do anything. And when his son found out, Ramachandraji, that this is what had happened, he willingly accepted whatever his father said. So unfortunately, Ramachandraji had to go into exile for 14 years. So he went with Sitaji, his wife, and his brother Lakshman. The three of them were together in the forests, going from place to place. And then after many years, maybe around 10 years, unfortunately Sitaji was abducted by the evil king Ravan of Lanka. And because of that, first of all, Hanumanji had to go to Lanka, found out where Sitaji was. Then Ramachandraji, Lakshman, the whole army had to cross the ocean. They got to Lanka, fought a war, many battles, and at the end of that war, Ravan was killed. After crowning Vibhishan as the king of Lanka, Ramachandraji returns with the whole party back to Ayodhya after a precise time of 14 years. That, in a nutshell, is the story of the Ramayan, which most of us are familiar with. We'll focus now on Ramachandraji and Kaikeyi. So Ramachandraji was away from home for 14 years. He had 14 years to think, he had 14 years to plan, and he had 14 years to work out the future. Do you think Kaikeyi figured in those plans? And if so, how did she figure? Remember, this 14 years of being in the forest, of being in exile, a sort of lockdown, was not Ramachandraji's wish. Something that's very, very hard to digest. However, Ramachandra Bhagwan, he accepted it willingly. Although it was difficult to fathom. Why did he accept it? Because his father, although his father was not willing, and his father was reluctant, and was actually very helpless, but because his father had no choice, Ramachandraji told his father that, so be it. Whatever you say, I will do. Your wish is my command. Because the dad, Dashrath Raja, had been bound to the promise that he had given to one of his queens, Kaikeyi. So Ramachandraji accepted the 14 years away from Ayodhya, being in the forests. However, in those 14 years, Ramachandraji did not expect that Sitaji would be abducted, that she would be kept as a prisoner by Ravan in Lanka. Ramachandraji had not expected that they'd have to cross the ocean somehow to reach Lanka with a massive army. He had not expected that they'd wage a war and fight many battles. Coming close to death, Ramachandraji and Lakshman both came very close. So these were all reasons for Ramachandraji to be bitter, to be sorry about the whole situation which had befallen him. So what do you think he must have been thinking in those 14 years? Especially after Sitaji's abduction, especially after going through a horrendous war. Fast forward 14 years later to when Ramachandraji and his party, they reach Ayodhya. He kissed the earth of Ayodhya, asking or telling, thank you for allowing me to return to this place. He greeted his guru. He touched his feet in reverence. And he offered his thanks for his protection. He met his brothers, Bharatji and Shatrughna. And then he met his mother or mothers, the three queens. There was Kaushalya, there was Sumitra, and there was Kaikeyi, Bharatji's mother. Now this Kaikeyi as we heard earlier, was the one who instigated, after being instigated herself by her maid, instigated the king to send Ramchandra away for 14 years. Yet when Ramachandraji meets Kaikeyi, he touches her feet. He treats her with respect. And he does not give her the cold shoulder, although he had every right to do so. And it was like a very casual conversation. Something like, "Mum, I hope you've got my lunch ready. I've been missing your food for 14 years. So Ramachandraji, now he could have said, okay, because of you, I lost the throne. Because of you, I had to leave my dad. I had to leave my family. As a direct result of your actions, my father, the king, he passed away. We know he died grief-stricken soon after Ramachandraji left. Because of you, because Sitaji chose to come to the forest with Ramchandra, because of you, Sitaji lost her comforts. Because of you, we had to spend 14 years in isolation. Because of you, my wife was kidnapped. My wife had to suffer in Lanka, away from me. Imagine the pain that she must have gone through. Because of you," this is Ramachandraji, hypothetically, how he could be speaking to Kaikeyi. "Because of you, we had to wage a war. How many lives were lost unnecessarily? And because of you, we had to go through so many trials, so many tests." Now, Ramachandraji was of a different metal. We know he was made of a different stuff. You know, the 14 years in exile, he could have wallowed in self-pity. He could have complained until the cows come home that I've not been treated fairly. This is unjust. He could have sunk into depression, but that's not what he did. On his return, when he met Kaikeyi, he could have brought up old wounds. He could have planned revenge, or even to punish the perpetrators, Kaikeyi and the maid Manthara. But Ramachandraji was a noble person. Bhagwan Swaminarayan talks in the Vaishnamrita that out of all the men in this world, two stand out, Ramachandraji and Arjun. And in the same Vaishnamrita, section 2, number 28, Bhagwan Swaminarayan says that out of all the women in this world, two stand out, Sitaji and Draupadi. So Ramachandraji was a noble individual. The dignity with which he left, the day he left Ayodhya, the same dignity he had the day he returned to Ayodhya. He harbored no hatred. He entertained no enmity. He bore no bitterness, and he kept no grudges. You know, we have a tendency to keep grudges. If you look at all the issues that happen in our social relationships, our families, there is much to do with prejudice, grudges. Unable to leave that, one thinker has said that it may be difficult to break the atom. We know how difficult it was to break the atom. It was done after many, many years, and then the energy that was harnessed by breaking the atom. We saw the consequences in Hiroshima and Nagasaki when the first atomic bombs were thrown. That's how much energy there is in the atom, but to harness that energy, you need to split, you need to break the atom. So one thinker has said it may be difficult to break the atom, but it is yet more difficult infinitely more difficult to break prejudice. To break that prejudice, to put aside a grudge, is very difficult. Because it means putting aside your ego. And we all know how difficult it is to forsake ego. Bhagwan Swaminarayan mentions that our differences, our disagreements, they should not be set in stone. They should not be etched on something metallic. But as we say, pani malito, a line through water. Put a line through water, what happens? You can momentarily see the line, but then the water covers the line. It's not there anymore. So you may have a disagreement. You may have a difference of opinion. But that doesn't mean that you have to fall out with each other. That doesn't mean that you have to keep a grudge. So if you want to be happy, don't keep a grudge. Make sure our line is in water. Ramachandraji, when he spoke to Kaikeyi, he used to address her as Mata, as if she were his own mother. So he said, Kaikeyi Mata. He didn't say that the exile was rubbish, but I guess something good came out of it. But the way he conducted himself in front of Kaikeyi Mata teaches us many, many different things. The respect he had for her. He managed to forgive her and forget. He managed to address her with kind words. He expressed his gratitude, how grateful he was. And Ramachandraji said, look, I've learned so much. And he also wished her well. This is something probably unheard of, the way people may conduct themselves after being in such a dire situation. But Ramachandraji bows down to Kaikeyi Mata and he says, Tata sneho bharata mahima, paurusham vayu sunoho. What Ramachandraji is saying, if you look at the last line first, ke gnatam sarva tava charanayo matar esha prasadaha, which means ke, hey mother, oh mother, because of your grace, because of your blessings, I've learned so much. Something that I would never have realized if I had not been able to go to the forests. So what have you taught me? What have I learned because of your blessings? So he says, Tata sneho. I've now understood how great the love of my father was. I've now understood how great the virtues of my brother Bharatji. I've learned about the might of Hanumanji, the friendship of Sugriv, and Saumitra Bhaktihi, the devotion of Lakshman, the son of Sumitra. I've learned about Sita Satyam, her purity, her chastity. I've learnt about Mama Bhuja Balam, my own strength. And finally, Vairinam Vaira Bhavaha. I've learnt about how strong my enemies were. He says, oh mother, if it were not for you, then I would have never realized or understood any of these matters. So we can see from this one verse or one shlok, Ramachandraji's gratitude to his mother. Not his real mother, Kaikeyi Mata. He used to address her as mother because she is one of the queens of King Dashrath. So we'll go through how he conducted himself. First of all, Ramachandraji, he treated Kaikeyi with respect and love, despite everything that she had done. He didn't turn away, but he bowed down. He touched her feet. Just like we encourage our young children, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, that respect your parents, respect your mother, respect your father. And we encourage them to bow down to their parents daily, touch their feet, and ask for their blessings. So even after 14 years of trials and tribulations, Ramachandraji, he bows down to Mata Kaikeyi and touches her feet in reverence. He doesn't remember the fact that she went to Dashrath and instigated him and told him about the two boons and forced him to avoid Ramachandraji coming on the throne. But he remembers a love that Kaikeyi had given him over the years. When he was young, she used to feed him, she used to look after him. That's what he chose to remember. So he respected her. Sometimes we also want to be respected. I think we always want to be respected. But respect is something that we can't demand. Respect is something that has to be earned. You respect others, and others will respect you. It works both ways. Ramachandraji, he managed to forgive his mother. This is the second point. He managed to forgive his mother, something that may be very difficult to do. It says it takes a strong person to forgive. It's very easy to take revenge, but to forgive requires strength. Nelson Mandela, he was imprisoned for 27 years in South Africa. For what? He had not committed any crime in the true sense of the word. He had not deserved anything. Yet he was imprisoned for his opposition to apartheid. He was tortured for many of those years, not treated with respect, humiliated, abused, beaten. Yet when he was finally released after 27 years in 1990, Nelson Mandela, he called not for revenge, but he called for forgiveness and reconciliation. Imagine how much understanding he must have had. Forgiveness and reconciliation. Again, this was Ramachandraji. Sometimes we think that when we forgive other people, we are doing them a favor. Actually, we're doing ourselves a favor. Forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. It allows us to move on, and it allows healing to take place. Otherwise, without letting go, we constantly remember the past. So forgive. It is said that the first to apologize is the bravest. The first to forgive is the strongest. But the first to forget is the happiest. So after forgiving, we also need to forget. Some people find it difficult. It's difficult to forgive, but they may be able to forgive. But after forgiving, they find it even more difficult to forget. Naturally, but if you want to be happy, you have to forget. So Ramachandraji, he treated his mother with respect, number one. Number two, he forgave. Number three, he was ready to forget. Number four, look at his words. Again, the last line, "Oh mother, because of your grace, your blessings, I am so happy. Otherwise, I would not have realized all these things, the love of my father, the virtues of Bharatji, the might of Hanumanji, etc., etc., etc." You know, speaking something kind at a time of need is also a great action. We can be kind in our actions, but we also have to be kind in our words. The first spiritual successor of Bhagwan Swaminarayan Gunatitanand Swami, in his talks, he says, "Satya, hit, ane priya, vachan bolwa." How should we speak? How should our words be? How should our speech be? Satya, Hit, and Priya. Satya means the truth. Hit means with an intention to help. Priya, those words have to be kind or sweet. Sometimes it's very difficult to say these things because we often don't think before we speak. One thinker has said that you have to think before you speak. It may sound a bit crude, but take a few seconds to think before you say anything. Draupadi, she spoke in haste, and we ended up with the war of the Mahabharata. Sitaji as well, she said a few words in haste, and we ended up with the Ramayan. There were many other reasons as well, but we have to think before we speak. Think. Before you say anything, ask yourself 5 questions. You do that by thinking. Number 1, the words that I am going to use, are they true? T. Are they H, helpful? Are they I, inspiring? Are they N, necessary? And finally, are they K? Are those words kind? If those words are true, helpful and beneficial, inspiring, necessary and kind, then go ahead. That is what should go through our mind when we want to say something to somebody. Subconsciously, we can't keep doing it all the time, otherwise we wouldn't say anything. So this is how we should speak. So we'll end today and we'll continue next week. But we've looked through 4 of the qualities, how Ramachandraji is addressing Kaikeyi Mata. With respect, he's willing to forgive, forget, and he's being kind to her. Not just through his actions, but through his words. So let us pray that we can also imbibe such qualities. Next week, we'll look at the second part of Ramachandraji's return. Jai Swaminarayan. So we have a question. How do we stop our minds from wandering into various negative thoughts, especially during current challenging lockdown and coronavirus times? Agree that the current lockdown and coronavirus situation is challenging, to say the least. Difficult, different to anything that we've probably ever experienced before, probably once in a lifetime. So how do we stop our minds from wandering into various negative thoughts? Positive thoughts, keeping dheeraj, patience, that this too shall pass. Hopefully it's just once in a lifetime. Offering prayers to God. And changing the perspective. Like instead of saying things or thinking of things as negative, think of things as positive. A little bit like what we've just talked about. That how can this current situation help me? Apart from everything I have to do, follow the guidelines, follow the various measures that have been given to us, to the book, to ensure our safety and other people's safety. But number 1, the measures are for my own good. They're for my protection, protection of my family, protection of my community, protection of my country. So take it in that perspective. Sometimes we might think, okay, I'm stuck at home. I'm bored at home. But my friend, you're not stuck at home. You're safe at home. Look at it at that angle. We think this is a lockdown in our own homes. But think of it, at least we've got a home to be locked down in. Some people in this world don't even have homes. I'd rather be locked down in home rather than be locked down in a hospital. I can't meet people. I can't shake hands with them. I have to stay 2 meters away. safe distancing. But it's better to be 2 meters away from somebody than thousands of meters away in a hospital. Or miles and miles away, maybe distance forever, if the worst was to happen. So better to stay safe at 2 meters than unsafe. At the moment, some of us wear masks. Some people don't like wearing masks. Wearing a mask is better than maybe wearing a mask through which you may have to take oxygen. Better than being on a ventilator. So look at the positives. That I'm safe at home. Some people say, I'm bored at home, I've got nothing to do. But make the most of your life. Spend time with your family. Spend time learning something, learning a new hobby, doing something that you've always wanted to do, studying, learning a language, doing something on a spiritual path, or becoming fit and more healthy or whatever. Things that you always wanted to do but never had the time. Instead of saying, oh, I'm bored and I've got nothing to do. So change the outlook, change the perspective, and we will be happy in these difficult and challenging times.